This is the 8-hour workday with Rex Haymarket, where every crisis somehow becomes your bill and their bonus. Tonight, Trump addresses the nation, oil jumps and markets recoil. The world scrambles to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The Supreme Court pushes back on Trump's birthright citizenship order. The US labor market holds for now, but the economic pressure is building. And humanity does one genuinely magnificent thing. NASA sends astronauts back on a lunar mission for the first time in more than 50 years. First tonight. Trump addressed the nation and tried to sound like the Iran war was nearing its conclusion. But the markets heard something else. According to AP, Trump said US military objectives were largely on track. What he did not do was explain how this war actually ends, or how the Strait of Hormuz gets reopened. According to Reuters, oil surged sharply after the speech. US crude jumped above $111 a barrel. Gasoline and diesel prices started climbing fast enough to threaten consumers within days. And AP reported that Iran kept firing missiles at Israel and Gulf neighbors on Thursday. So the message markets took was not stability, it was this. This could get worse. And the speech came just after another Trump remark that told you rather a lot about the governing philosophy behind all this. At a White House Easter lunch on April 1st, Trump said the federal government could not, quote, take care of daycare. He also suggested it was not possible to handle daycare, Medicaid, and Medicare while, quote, we're fighting wars and prioritizing, quote, military protection. That clip circulated widely and was reported on April 6th. So there it is, always money for missiles, endless urgency for war. But childcare, healthcare, and basic social provision? Suddenly we're told the cupboard is bare. That is not economics, that is an ideological budget. Next, the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that helps keep the global economy breathing. Reuters reported that Britain convened talks with first around 35 countries and later roughly 40 to discuss reopening the strait after Iran effectively shut it down. Around a fifth of global oil moves through that corridor. So when it closes, the crisis does not stay regional for very long. It becomes everyone's inflation problem. Reuters said the talks included Britain, France, Germany, Canada, the UAE, India, and others. Notably absent, the United States. That came after Trump said, countries affected by the closure should deal with it themselves, which is a bit like knocking over the shelves in the shop and then announcing you won't be helping with the cleanup. Reuters says the early focus of those talks was diplomacy, mine clearing, and protecting commercial shipping. In plain English, nobody wants a wider war, but everyone wants the oil moving again before fuel prices start tearing through domestic politics. Now to Washington. The Supreme Court heard arguments on Trump's effort to restrict birthright citizenship. And according to Reuters, the justices appeared skeptical. The administration is trying to reinterpret the 14th Amendment so that many babies born on US soil would no longer automatically receive citizenship. Reuters reported that Chief Justice John Roberts pushed back during arguments on the idea that changed circumstances somehow rewrite clear constitutional language. Reuters also reported that Trump attended the hearing himself, a remarkable move for a sitting president. If upheld, the order would affect hundreds of thousands of babies each year. And let's put that plainly. When a government starts arguing that being born in the country should not necessarily make you of the country, that is not bureaucratic housekeeping. That is nationalist engineering with legal stationery. Now to the economy. The headline number says steady. Everything underneath says don't look too closely. Reuters reported that weekly US jobless claims fell by 9,000 to 202,000. That suggests layoffs remain relatively low. But continuing claims rose to 1.841 million. The trade deficit widened to $57.3 billion in February, and economists warned that the Iran war and the oil shock pose new risks to growth. Reuters also said the labor market remains stuck in a low-hire, low-fire limbo, and here is where it gets real for people not paid to go on television and call this resilience. Reuters reported that gasoline prices have already moved above $4 a gallon nationally. Diesel is also climbing sharply. And once diesel goes, everything goes with it. Food, freight, building materials, flights, the lot. So yes, layoffs are still low. But low layoffs are not the same thing as a healthy economy. A labor market can look stable right up to the moment the higher bills arrive. And finally, something that does not feel like the opening act of a collapse. Artemis. Reuters and AP reported that NASA launched Artemis II on April 1st, sending 4 astronauts on the first crewed lunar mission in more than 50 years. The mission is a roughly 10-day flight around the moon and back, and the crew includes the first woman, the first black astronaut, and the first Canadian assigned to a lunar mission. That is genuinely historic. In a week dominated by war maps, fuel spikes, and constitutional brinkmanship, humanity managed one act that felt like ambition instead of managed decline. Reuters also noted that the mission unfolds in a wider strategic context, with China still aiming for a crewed lunar landing by 2030. So yes, even this comes wrapped in national prestige and great power competition, but still, better rockets than rubble, better moonshots than siege logic, better public ambition than permanent austerity. So that was the day. A war speech that sent oil flying. Allies left to sort out the shipping lane that keeps the global economy alive. A Supreme Court argument over whether the Constitution means what it says. A labor market still standing, but clearly taking body blows. And a moon mission that reminded the species it can still do something magnificent when it chooses to. This has been the 8-hour workday with Rex Haymarket, where every crisis becomes your invoice and every miracle has to elbow past a procurement officer. Like, subscribe and appease the algorithmic gods, because apparently that is what passes for distribution now. I'm Rex Haymarket. Good night. And do try not to let anyone sell you war abroad and austerity at home as the natural order of things.